Welcome back to a startup pyramid video. In this section, what we're going to look at is the middle layer of the pyramid, the one that is called solve. In the solve section, there's going to be a number of different steps that are grouped into two big categories. First, the solution, and second is the design. Let's look at the solution section in a little bit more details. At the very bottom is basic solution. Your basic solution is just to understand in a very, very simple way, so let's say very high level, what is it that you're trying to solve for whom? And what is it that's going to be the main thing that your solution will do? So let's take an example. Let's go back at the two main variables of our pyramid, very bottom layer of the pyramid, people and situation. Let's say that the people that we want to try to help are puppy owners, and their situation is that their puppies are wrecking their homes. They definitely need help with this, right? So basic solutions could be three different things for them. For instance, it could be that we could look at restraining the dog. We could look at training the dog, or maybe the dog owner wants to get trained so that they are able to train their dog themselves. And that would be an example of what a basic solution could do for them. Once you have picked a basic solution and validated it, the next step is to start understanding what shape is this solution going to have, what's going to be its format. And let's say you were looking at restraining the dog. This could be either, let's say, a muzzle or a cage. If you're looking at training the dog, this could be either on-site training for the dog, or maybe it's a dog camp. Or if the owner is being trained, it could be something like an app, a book, an online course, or maybe even a TV show, right? Different formats that your solution could take. And once a format is confirmed, you can actually start figuring out what's going to be the main thing that my solution should do. What should be its core feature? And let me give you an example. If, let's say, you were having a doggy training camp, maybe your main feature is that you offer 100% guarantee of results, right? And your clients will be happy, otherwise they're getting a full reimbursement. Or it might be that you are located downtown, really close to where the majority of your population is. So think about what should be the main thing that's going to be so attractive that you are able to share with people and that it becomes obvious for them that they need to be working with you. If you are working on an app or something that is online, a lot of the time a feature is going to be easier to understand. So if, let's say, we are talking about Facebook, when they started, were not the Facebook that we know now with so many different features and marketplace and messenger and all of this. Facebook, when it started, was very simple. And I would say its core feature was maybe something along the lines of you having status updates that you could post, and then you just had a feed with everyone else's, all your friends' status updates. And maybe that was it for them. The idea of a core feature is very close to what is spoken about in the lean startup. It's the idea of starting by building something that is small and that you can test whether that works. So a lot of the time, a typical mistake that first-time entrepreneurs do is that they dream big and they dream about all the different features it needs to have and how amazing their product is going to be and how big they're going to go with it. But the true way of being able to validate is actually to start small, and again, to be able to confirm, is that small thing working before you start building anything else? So that's the approach that we're taking here. What's the core feature? What's the main thing that your solution will do? Once you have finished looking at the other step of the solution layer, you are finally at pricing. And pricing is so important and also interesting because pricing is not just how much you're going to be charging to your client. That's obviously very important, right? If you charge too much, maybe no one will be interested. That's definitely not to be not to be ignored, but also pricing has to do with the pricing strategy overall. And I'll just touch upon a few strategies. You'll see throughout the course we'll refer to a few more. But pricing strategies can be, let's say, something like cost-based strategy. So cost plus, what this means is that you need to calculate your cost, and then on top of this, you're going to be adding a certain amount of margin that will be how much you take. And that needs to cover all of your costs, right? That needs to make sense financially for you. Alternatively, you might be like the perfume industry and you might be a value-based pricing. So you would base your product or service based on what the client thinks it's worth. And when we're looking at this, what happens instead is that, so in the perfume industry, it just costs a few dollars to produce the liquid that is in the bottle. However, as a client, you might think that this is worth $90, $150, right? Whatever the pricing of the perfume is. And that's also because the industry puts a lot of emphasis on advertisement. And so depending on the type of business that you're in, there will be different strategies there. Also, you might decide to go for a very, very low price to enter a very competitive market and decide to raise that price later on. So think of what makes most sense in terms of approach for price. And also pricing is also another perspective, which is the idea of saying what's going to be the best pricing model for your clients. And that could be, let's say, a subscription service. It could be that you would be a middle person and you're taking a cut off all sales. It could be that you are not charging your audience, but only charging advertisers, right? A lot of websites are completely free to use, but then they will have ads, and hopefully people are making enough money through these ads, right? So these are some of the things to think about when you are doing pricing and things to validate with your audience. We are now ready to move into the design portion. Experience. What will be the experience of using your product? Is it going to be something of luxury? Is it going to be fast or cheap or something that's very easy? Thinking about the experience actually allows you to dive into how is it going to be in the shoes of your clients. For those of you that are building something that has to do with technology, you are very familiar with this concept, the concept of UX, user experience. And when it comes to user experience, it's to understand what is the flow. So again, when we're talking about technology in an app or something like this, what is the flow that a user will take in which they need to go through to access and enjoy your product? So will there be a landing page, a first page where they need to enter their login information? Will they need to confirm this? Will they need to then search for the thing that they're looking for? So on and so forth. And even if you are not building something that has to do with technology, it's definitely important to think about the overall experience that you want to offer your clients and to start designing this so that you get a good sense of what it feels to be working with you. And we are finally able to look at design. So that's the look and feel of your solution, but also of everything that's related to it. So I say a rookie mistake is that a lot of the time, and I was definitely guilty of that, starting a business, people start by looking at the design before anything else, right? The joy goes into creating the logo and getting a sense of how it's going to feel to have this company. That was a little too early. Now is the right time to do this though. So this is the part where you actually get to understand. So if previously you picked an experience that had to do, let's say, with luxury, well then maybe your font is going to be thin and long and spaced out to give this effect of luxury. Maybe you will use thin lines and you will use a lot of white space, and be very careful in the pictures that you choose because again, you want to give that feel of luxury. Right? So all of this obviously comes together. And again, it is so important that the foundation that we got of the pyramid when we first started, and we were trying to understand, and we understood hopefully, who are the people and what's the situation that they're faced with. If let's say we go back to the UGG example that we looked at in the previous video, and we are targeting surfers, obviously by the time you are talking about design and you are talking to a group of surfers, that's going to look very different than someone to whom you're trying to sell perfume. And that's fine, but that's exactly why it's so important to get to know your people really well. Because design design for surfers might look like happy colors, laid back fonts. Design for a perfume ad might be something that is more elegant, might be something that is more refined. And that's great. That's exactly the place and the time to make this magic happen.